resuming back to school is more than just as you are announcing we have called off the strike. Because the strike lasted for 8 months. A lot of things are no longer in order.
Admission pending.
There are pending
NYC,
admissions,
color,
pending examinations.
Senate to vet results.
Law school.
Law school is there. You should understand the fact that the progression of activities in the university have been stalled. And then to start is to revitalize. It is not, you can't just, it is not about attending classes alone. It's not about delivering lectures alone. The administrative structure of most of these schools needs to be tampered with now. Some lecturers left, they're no longer around.
Yes.
Some students are not going to come back.
You see that some students now, moved from public university
to private universities. Some lecturers too moved from public to private. Some moved abroad. So it is obviously a situation that requires a lot of re-engineering. And that's not something you do in hours. Oh, strike has been called off on Friday. People are saying lecture starts on Monday. I said this is not secondary school. And it's not a training institute. We're talking about the arbiters. Now, in the midst of it all, we had some lecturers simply saying, we can't even go to school for now because we don't have transport fare.
Is that not ridiculous?
It is not ridiculous. I'll tell you. Hey, why? Listen. Why it is the... The word transport...
They've agreed to pay them now.
Listen now. The issue of transport fare is more like an ironic approach to the real problem. They are just using that to tell you how bad the situation is. It is not... Are they going to jump buses? Is it all of them that will jump buses? They have their cars. But they are telling you how unprepared they are for now. And the unpreparedness borders on certain things. If you are asking them to resume school, what are they going there to do? The Senate of the university need to first come up with an academic calendar. Most of them were in mid-season when the strike started. Others were about to start. Others were about to conduct examinations. So there should be a definition of where they are going to pick it up from. Will it be appropriate for any university to resume and proceed straight to examination for these students who have been home for 8 months? These are things that need to be addressed.
It's like a regular thing. ASU strike, and they know the way they do it and the way they plan it. And to... Considering these effects, the adverse effect that we've been looking, we talked about that Dari mentioned now, and don't you think strike must always be the last option if we are going to go through this rigmarole to start up the academic year?
Well, we live and learn. That's the essence of life. I've been a victim myself. I know how the students will feel going back to school at a point in time. But I think the Senate and the administration of the schools are correct. First, let them meet. Let them set up new academic calendars. Don't forget that non-academic staff also at one point or the other joined this strike. That means that the infrastructure will also have to be cleaned up. Laws have to be mourned. Things have to be done. And we have to go back to... So it will be a slow but steady move back to normality. It's not going to be overnight. But yeah, if the lecturer is ready and they've covered the syllabus, why not? They can have the exams tomorrow, if that is what will happen. It's not a big deal, because it is assumed that while you are away, you kept up with your studies. So whether that is correct or not is irrelevant. What's relevant is that whenever the school administration comes up with the new calendar, everybody must conform. And they too will be mindful of the fact that they've been away for almost 2/3 or 3/4 of the year, and they will factor this into whatever decisions they are taking moving forward. So in that reality, we just have to know that once the decision has been taken, the students who have been angling to go back to school in the last 8 months will have no choice but to go and prove their mettle in schools that they are. That lecturers will leave is a matter of course. That students will leave, we all know that, but they will not be able to do the real census until maybe 2-3 months down the line, because it's not something they can do immediately. And so it's when they now take a roll call and know those who are back and those who are not. That we can really say, yeah, they are truly back. But for now, the first thing they need to do is what they are doing. Meet, decide, then give dates for resumption of lectures, and if possible, the start of exams.
Dari, what and what can we put in place to avert situations like this, so that
to avert strikes?
So that by this time next year we are not going to find ourselves.
This time next year? That's too early. This lasted for 8 months. So even if we are going to have strike, between us, let us pray for this time in the next decade. Because if we keep doing this every year, every 2 years, because that's how it's looking. It's like every 2 years, a year, we must go through. And it is, you see, why I want to defer to GKB in the fact that when the university say it's exam time, all students will conform. I can only imagine what a student that has been out of class for 8 months will go through sitting for an exam. I know the institutions too will consider this in setting up the calendars that we're asking for. But what do we do to avert strikes? Between me and you, why? The only way you can avoid what I call labor unrest is to ensure that you satisfy your employees. Those basic things that should be their lot, give it to them. But we cannot say that about the way we treat our workers in this part of the world. It is not only the university teachers. Sincerely, you discover that
if ASU is not on strike today, SANU will be
on strike. If SANU is not on strike, it will be ASUP. If it is, there is an institution today, a polytechnic. After weeks of rigmarole, the students shut down the school themselves because school fees were, increased astronomically. At a point when their parents have not gotten salary increase. At a time when inflation is digging a big hole in everybody's pocket. So when you have a situation like this, there will be strikes. What we can only plead for, which I have always said, is we must always avoid rushing to go on strike. If it will always be the last resort. And it's a very serious last resort, not just at the slightest disagreement. The effect and the fund that we need to put into putting the schools back on track is even more than what we are fighting over. Because if you understand what many of the tools, materials, and other things in this university have gone through. Studios are down, lawns are overgrown with weeds, classrooms need new, a lot of, now the universities will have to source for fund to repair what has been spoiled, to put back in shape what has been left unused, and due to idleness, these things got spoiled. We could avoid all that if we avoid strike. So while it is appropriate to ask for what belongs to you, let us always think of other means of getting this done.
That Nigerians in the diaspora continue to make impact and do the country proud is a thing of joy. A Nigerian scholar, Eniton Okediji, has emerged as the Vice President of Academic Affairs of Kennedy School of Government at Harvard University, Boston, Massachusetts, in the United States of America. The alumnus of the University of York made the announcement on her Twitter page on Monday. As the Vice President of Academic Affairs at the institutions, Okediji will represent students' voices and issues in the school administration. This is Kennedy School of Governance, that prestigious school.
Yeah, but she's also a professor of law.
And arguably the best university in the world.
And she's arguably one of the best when it comes to student relations in the American university system. She's very well known for that. So this job entails that she represents the students' interests, which also tail back to what we were saying before.
That's nice. DKB, let's talk about...
At the University of New York, NYU, by the way.
Yes. Let's talk about, Massachusetts is a very funny city.
Yeah.
That Boston, Massachusetts the same, you have IMT there.
IMT is there.
You have IMT, you have Boston University, and you have Harvard University.
Harvard.
On arguably the best institutions
If you know the history
around the world.
If you know the history of education in the US,
That's why you have Red Sox.
You will know the role
Boston
that
played.
Boston plays when it comes to education in the United States. Don't forget, these were schools set up when the US was just 13 states. They've not expanded to Texas. They've not expanded to California. So they were concentrated in New England, or the tri-state area, as it were. So that makes it the #1 Ivy League school world. So for her to do this, she must be best of the best of the best at that level. Because like I said, unlike Nigeria that we were talking about, the students have a say in the administration of the alma mater. The alumni are very powerful. In fact, the only university I can compare to Harvard in Nigeria, the University of Lagos, where they've ensured that the VC, the registrar, the librarian, what's the third one? All the top echelon of everything will be occupied by alumni. So that's where you can control the standard of the school that you go to. And the fact that she's from NYU is also something, because most of the time, for her to get this in Harvard.
Okay, she's from New York University.
She's the alumni of the university.
And when you look at the way our people excel abroad, you know that this fighting spirit, if you're a medical doctor in Nigeria, and if you go through what you can go through in the general hospitals, you can survive anywhere in the world. They pass their transition exam and they do well, they excel.
It's just to buttress the fact that the Nigerian society is not as bad as we want to paint it. The Nigerian society toughens you, prepares you, so much so that we have this say while we were in school back then. We say, if you pass through this our school, you will survive anywhere in the world. It's just the same thing. If you survive Nigeria, let me put it that way, you sit down here as a journalist and you survive Nigeria. If you go to BBC, it's natural. Look at our guys who are there. You sit down in Nigeria as a lawyer. If you survive here and you go, it's a natural thing, because here you have to fight for everything.
It's not
the
easy.
facilities are not there, but you want to excel. The encouragement may not be there. You want to excel. Nobody is motivating you. What others do over there digitally, you are doing here manually. So, and you still get it done.
You are doing by yourself.
And you are doing by yourself. The stress you go through here is like times 10 of what they go through.
In our general hospitals, look at the number of
patients you have to as a doctor. So if you have to attend,
if you do that ratio,
50 patients a day in Nigeria, and you go abroad, all you have to do is 4. Won't you pay detailed attention, so much so that you will now be noticed? Somebody talked about one of our friends who went abroad, and in no time he has written 3 books that the world is talking about. And I tell them, he has all the facilities. He did video call with some of us, and all he wanted to do was to go and sit by the seaside, so that he said he wanted to imagine something. So there was a seaside ready-made. He went there. He didn't have to drive 4 hours to get there.
Oh, no.
If you go to seaside here in Nigeria, apart from driving 4 hours,
you want to go to Elegushi.
Don't forget that if you're on the third mainland bridge and there's traffic, you can see the lagoon. So you can start thinking.
Under duress. You see the lagoon under duress.
Pretend you are in the seaside at my
house. So these are the things we talk about.
You have lagoon front in University of Lagos.
That's what I'm saying. But if you are going to lagoon from here, to go to Lagoon from University of Lagos, if you are not careful, the next 3 hours you're on the road. And when you are done thinking and imagining there, you will lose everything you thought of. By the time you face the traffic back.
I just ate.
So the facilities, the environment, everything is, more favorable over there. So much so that if you are now given that template to work with, and you are coming from the background of a Nigerian who worked in Nigeria, and Nigeria has happened to you many times, and you survive and you excel.
No, the Nigerian spirit is peculiar, because other Africans too have traveled abroad, and it's only Nigerians and Indians that are really the drivers of the diaspora business. Of course, like I said last week, some countries have a directorate for diaspora affairs, just to make sure you have access to those who bring money to your system. The Nigerian has always been like this. It's not only in the academia. Even the Nigerian police, the much maligned Nigerian police, have won awards everywhere for things that their own Oyibo police will not see. Because he has seen everything. There is no story you want to tell a Nigerian policeman unless he wants to carry
Oyibo criminal will now outsmart a Nigerian policeman. It's not possible.
I don't forget our armed forces in Liberia. So we've done this.
Morgan,
so the Nigerian factor, you know, Abi, even at airports, you know, the GFK, you will know Nigerians are around because they don't take BS from anybody. They believe because I'm providing my own security at home, providing my own water, providing my
it's the same thing.
What are you going to tell me that will make a difference? So that's why they get abroad. Things that are normal to those people as a matter of course for us. So you have time to think, you have time to thrive, to become the best you can be. Because I know a guy who was paid $2 million to write a book. He was paid an advance of 1.5 million. The book has not been printed. It was a leap of faith. Who will pay you 1.5 million naira to write your memoirs?
By the time you almost finish it before they say.
No, you even be your own printer. You be your own publisher. You be your own launcher. Everything will be done by you.
You're going to raise funds.
All they ask from the man is content. There's a whole infrastructure waiting for him to
support what he has to do.
The book editors are ready. Everybody's ready. Just send in your comment, leave the rest to them. And they paid him advance. I said Nigerian people cannot write. How will you write when you're in traffic? Or you're right.
If I have $1.5 billion, I will not write. Million?
They paid him up front.
So particularly, you know, outside.
Nigerians
go to Republic of Benin, go to Ghana, you know, all
because of what we have gone through here. If you go through our own situation and you see a little better environment, you will thrive.
I have Shola Julius calling us from Ibadan, Oyo State.
Yes, AY.
Yes, thank you for joining us, Shola.
Buhari and GKB.
I agree to
yes, that's a very good one from all of you.
Thank you.
I want to congratulate Okedechi for this very laudable achievement. And that shows that Nigerians are brilliant. And as well, we are doing well. If we can be doing that outside our country, that is a very indication that we can do better in our own country. And these are indications to show that Nigeria still have hope. And Nigeria as well still have a better future. We should just still rely and rest on our own power that no matter what happens, we don't need a messiah. We just need good governance. And we'll get there.
Thank
God
you.
bless you.
Thank you.
I'm enjoying you people.
Together we say congratulations to Eniton Okediji. God bless Nigeria. Now, the longer the protracted subsidy regime linger, the more it attracts public scrutiny and criticism. The Agora policy, a Nigerian think tank and a non-profit group which conducts policy research, has called for removal of petrol subsidy and reduction in the country's appetite for debts. According to the organization, the mounting debts owed several lending organizations by Nigeria have not positively impacted lives of the people. This think tank group, they are saying, first of all, do away with subsidy, and that we should do away with subsidy. And President Muhammadu Buhari has been there for over seven years now, and because of the impacts, the reaction, the pains, but we keep paying this subsidy, and it will hurt even the new administration. You can listen to Sanusi, Lamido Sanusi, the former Emir of Kano, saying it next to that. It doesn't envy the next administration because that is a big decision to take. That we have to do away with subsidy.
At some point or the other, we have to buy the bullets.
You say at some point or the other, have we not gotten to that avenue now? We've been dilly-dallying, we've been on this.
There's this joke that somebody told me
since 2012.
When he said he was broke, and the man said, you still have a car now.
So you're not broke?
So you're not broke. You understand the concept was saying? I don't want to say that the subsidies is scam. I think that one is already established. Because we move beyond any realistic expectation. Even everybody in Lagos, they should have cars. We will not be consuming what they say we are consuming. Especially with the improvements in public power supply in the last 6 months or thereabouts. We all know how much petrol costs in the Republic of Benin, how much they cost in Togo, in Niger. We know
It's about the cheapest, what we sell.
So we are an island that we provide succor for our neighbors. I don't even want to talk about those who are siphonning our fuel. That's another thing entirely. Well, my hope, I may be misplaced, I'm not sure, is for the Dangote thing to come on stream, so that we can proudly say we are refining at home. And that, of course, will help end the subsidy. And like I said, it's a hope upon hope that will produce enough, and all the smaller ones. Because the only thing that will stop this subsidy and be effective is internal refining. And once we don't get to that, no matter who becomes president, unless he wants to spend the term, I want people to stone him out of office. He will huff, he will puff, but he will retain the subsidy. Because what will happen if you remove it suddenly? In the country, they've not increased lower, what do you call it, minimum wage, is to ensure that the minimum wage in Nigeria can last a worker exactly 4 days for you to spend it. So you cannot do that and fight corruption at the same time.
This seems to be like a catch-22 situation. If you do it, you're damned. If you don't, you'll be damned.
We've been on subsidies in 2012. Politicians come, they go. Some promise removal of subsidy as electoral campaign. They get there, they develop code feet. Others say we'll keep subsidy.
We are paying in trillions now.
In trillions. You see, let me tell you.
Money that is meant to use for another thing, or for other things.
It is for Nigerians to accept that. I read a book, and it said the author said, we must die for us to live. Nigerians must know that we must die on the issue of subsidy for us to live. If we remove subsidy today, you see, I've read enough, I've listened to economists and all that experts enough to know that if we remove subsidy, we may be in the very tight corner, but it may not be for more than 6 months a year. This pricing will come down. The truth is that we are not consuming what the government is paying for. And once there is no subsidy and nobody is subsidizing, people will import just what they can sell. But it is not going to be a Tea Party affair in the beginning. The moment it is removed, there will be war. There will be difficulty.
There will be uprising.
There will be uprising. But it is for you and I.
Because what we are saying
let
now,
Nigerians know.
The reality now is that we buy it once, is it 160 now? 170. What you are saying now, it might go as high as 400.
300, 400.
And it may come down to 60.
Eventually, it will come down because those importing will now be forced to sell what they actually buy because nobody is going to pay them extra. Now, the danger about the Dangote, the smugglers will stop because it will no longer be profitable.
There's no money now.
It will no longer be profitable to take it from here to Benin, where it is already being sold for 420.
Yes.
And you are coming with 400, so on Niger or Chad. We learned that it goes as far as Mauritania, Nigeria oil, because even the transport can be built into it conveniently and they will still make profit. Now we talk about Dangote. It will not help us unless we remove subsidy first. And I'll tell you why. Dangote is in business. I'm saying this on national TV. If aligning with the price that is that obtains now will make Dangote conglomerate make more money, they are not likely to go too low. We've seen it in cement, we've seen it in other products. They come and they just, a little reduction, after a while, the price will go up again. Because every businessman wants to make profit as much as possible. But if we...
As much as legal.
Yeah, as much as possible. That's the truth. If it's as much as legal, then some things will not be happening. As much as possible. So what I think we should do is educate ourselves on the need to swallow bitter pills on the issue of subsidy so that we can we can enjoy it in the end. As long as government is willing and ready to pay some people for inflating figures, for telling us we have consumed what we did not consume according to obvious facts. Now, even government itself, government agencies and government bodies are coming to tell us, for God's sake, even if we are drinking fuel instead of water, it shouldn't be this. How many gallons of water are we daily drinking per day?
Let me just pause you there. We'll take this breather. When we come back, we'll talk more. Still journalist Hangout. We'll be right back after this break. Please stay with us.
This blessing be yours forever to keep a calm and peaceful sleep.
Removes my sleep, a calm and peaceful sleep. Good night, Electric.
Good afternoon, Oga. Now you be the landlord.
Yes, Nami.
Oga landlord, me go need 1 room for this your house, so.
Okay, sure you get work where you dey do.
Yes, I be nurse.
You no go dey owe me be that now.
Now how much be your rent, safe?
Not just 90,000 naira. Wait, this guy, where you come from, Sef?
Oga, I come from Akamata.
Akamata, no talk am again. My spirit and Akamata people no dey ever join.
Oga, wetin happen now?
Come on for my compound. Na so baba thing na people sabi do for that Akamata. Come on for here.
Haba, Papa, wetin this innocent girl do you now? Now people like you, they spoil Nigeria, Papa.
I think you don't see am now. My people they talk say jollof rice wey dey for bottom pot today go dey top of cooler tomorrow. As I take need you now, so you self need me. Because now one mama we get we be Nigeria. Make we love ourselves because now only together we go fit make our country better for us and our children them. One heart plus one love equals better Nigeria. Now the Center for Democracy and Development CDD with support from the UK government they bring in this message.
If you are just joining us, this is Journalist Hangout, and I have Gani, Kairi Balogun, and Dari Otufokon in the studio. The GKB, we are looking at the other leg of it is that our debt profile.
Yeah, that one is unacceptable.
It's becoming embarrassing now that every year when we're budgeting, we have to set aside what, in terms of revenue, we incur more debt than the revenue that we're making.
We even get more. We even get loans to pay debts, which itself is dangerous, and that doesn't make sense. I agree with you that because normally people will tell you that if you are in a hole, stop digging. But we seem to go the other way. What I call the Socrates maxim, that if you think somebody is coming in to change the narrative, they are not. The debt profile of the states, of the federal government, started at the tail end of the Jonathan administration, when they started borrowing money to pay salaries. And we thought this administration would make a difference going down the line. But so far, because of the attention they are paying to infrastructure, they have incurred more debt in the system. And like we said when we started, whoever is coming in as president will have to clean a lot of things on his plates. Because there is no way in this God's earth that we can continue like this to the next 2-3 years. Already, we are a pariah when it comes to loans. Don't forget that even our best friend, China, are not very reluctant to help out in certain areas. That's why there was the slowdown in the Rotimi Amechi grand plan of running railway around Nigeria. So we're already pariah in some areas. People don't want to give us loans. And nobody's going to forgive us. They know how much you are making. They know how much of our house are being stolen. They have the facts. We are not qualified for debt forgiveness. So if anybody is coming or going to Washington and telling them that we want to please forgive us, they know how much you've wasted. They know how much money you are wasting on subsidy. They know how much money you are wasting on the discourse. They know you've not done any new penny.
They've told us to remove subsidies since. This building is
they said there's nothing you can do. We've not done that. Our taxation regime is not to talk about. People are getting away with murder in Nigeria. Things that they cannot do in other countries, they get away with in Nigeria. They will not pay taxes. A lot of people are enjoying this thing that they give them at the ports. Waiver.
Tax waivers.
A lot of people are getting waivers in a country that people are not getting money. You are giving waivers for people to bring in things that they are selling at premium. They are not selling at cost that people can afford. They are selling at premium. And yet you are giving waivers for them to pay. Just last year, they mentioned 4 roads that companies are supposed to do and pay them. As of today, coming from the border, no movement on those roads. And they said they've given them 5-year tax break to do these roads. Not one single movement. On the one coming from Idiroko, that will come out at Shagamu Interchange.
Maybe after 5 years they will start.
So then you wonder, roads that were given out for you to do, I thought the first thing you do is mobilize those sites. You cannot blame government for that. They give you all the consensus you wanted. So the problem we have now is that we cannot continue to get busy and run it.
As a last count, we're owing over 23 trillion in terms of...
Do you even see our generation paying off that debt if we are not forgiven?
Our children's generation.
We are living like a set of daddies that have finished enjoying or eating what belongs to our generation, and we have started eating the things that belong to our children's
our
generation.
Grandchildren.
Soon we are moving into the biscuits and the snacks that belong to our grandchildren.
Or sweets.
And we find it so comfortable. Why do we think that we can live by borrowing? Every time we plead, can we? But people have come to tell us that if we don't borrow, we cannot run this government. Let us agree without conceding that this is true. So why don't we just look inward and cut off these excesses? A public official with 8 SS, 10 personal assistants,
14,000.
a governor with
14,000. 14,008.
14,008.
They will earn salary.
They will earn salary, they will collect allowances.
After retirement, they will get money.
And everything is being funded by debts, borrowings. And then we have a set of governors. We've had a set of governors in the last 10 years or so that make it mandatory on the federal government to borrow. Whenever they need money, there is always this outcry from governors that the federal government should borrow.
Let's quickly take this call. Wale is calling us from Ikorodu. Olawale, thank you for joining us.
Good afternoon, Ayo.
Good afternoon, Wale.
Yeah. This issue of subsidy, before President Buhari came to power, he told us categorically that subsidy was a scam. Was he not able to discover those people in charge of the scam? This is the 7th year. So don't let us deceive ourselves all these things. Then my people in my village, in Ogofetiti, they are not benefiting from subsidy. They are only subsidizing the lifestyle for the rich. So the poor people, the police, the bad body, they are not benefiting at all. Then, in respect of these debts, look, and they point to what they have done with the humongous loan they've taken from China and other people. What happened to Zambia will happen to Nigeria. They will soon take over our railways. God bless you.
Okay. Yeah. Talking about pointing to what they've done.
Yeah.
They've listed it. We've seen Lagos-Ibadan Expressway under construction. We've seen Second Niger Bridge under construction.
Lagos-Ibadan is almost ready.
Kano, Kaduna, Abuja.
Sukuk loans that were tied to projects. That one we can.
And the resuscitation of the rail project across.
So if we have loans that
I cannot take projects, I cannot take train to Ibadan.
They were tied to projects.
I can take train to Ibadan.
I took
from Ibadan. I think Abeokuta.
Yeah, Abeokuta, Ibadan.
Abeokuta, Ibadan.
To Abeokuta is 1 hour, to Ibadan is because they are running slowly.
Okay.
It's about 2 hours. So you leave Lagos at 8 to get to Ibadan around 10:30.
No, then you can time yourself.
You can time yourself.
It's okay. And then there is
once you get there, it's about 5 minutes to UI. So you can. I know people who go to Ibadan. However, there was a time I was in the train station and something peculiar happened. About 10 people were going to a party, and they joined the train in the morning. Well, we came together in the evening with the return train, and they were carrying all these gifts.
Yeah, from
the
party.
This is a business. Because if you have a party and tell your people, report at the train station. So the point you made is genuine. Because you can see that some loans were used for what they said they will be used for. Well, we have loans by state governments that cannot be. Some people are building airports that there is no road to get to the airport. You understand? They are building what I call vanity projects. Because they are not.
We celebrated our airport in Ekiti yesterday.
I don't know Ekiti airport.
Except,
meanwhile, if you do Google, the distance between Akure and Ado Ekiti is less than 40 minutes.
No more train.
By road.
The road.
And if you do the road, that means about 30
if the road is more terrible, what if the road is more terrible? If we make the road more terrible, put the fund to some more serious.
Well, kind of agro-allied.
We know that's how it started.
If this will alleviate, if somebody called in and said the people in the ruralities are not enjoying these loans, it is we are subsidizing the lifestyle of the rich. When you consider that statement and you link it to what we are talking about, you understand what it means. You see, the truth of the matter is, when we want to cite projects, when we want to decide on projects to be carried out, we should consider a whole lot of things. How many? I will always say the greatest number of good for the greatest number of people.
Yeah.
See, what is a number of people that will benefit from this or this? When you are comparing, it's either this or this. But we don't do that when it comes to policies in Nigeria. And that is why you must understand the issue of loans and subsidy in the sense that today, if we decide to remove subsidy, possibly if the people in the rural area are well sensitized, you discover that the uproar may not be much. It will come from these urban areas. But the impact of subsidy will be felt in the rural areas too, when NEPA or PSN is not available. When other facilities force them, the absence of other force them to recourse to the use of fuel. Okay. If we do the things we need to do necessarily, we may avoid all this.
And finally, losses and more losses have been recorded as floods continue to ravage many parts of Nigeria. The federal government has described that severe flooding has so far killed more than 600 persons, displaced about 2 million others, and destroyed over 108,393 hectares of farmland across the country. Speaking in Abuja, the Minister of Humanitarian Affairs, Disaster Management and Social Development, Sadiya Omar Farouk, warned of more devastating effects in Anambra, Cross River, Rivers, Delta, and Bayelsa states. She urged the state government to relocate residents in flood-prone areas to high ground. We actually spoke with our correspondent yesterday, Ikena, and he told us in Delta states, at about 12 local governments, affected, and those ones
the river
sharing River Niger, the riverine areas, and we have this kind of disaster, and some state governments, like the Bayelsa state government, is calling on the federal government to actually declare a state of emergency because it's really, really bad. Humanitarian crisis, and if we're not good with figures, if we have 630 persons said to have lost their lives, 2 million others displaced, and you can imagine the kind of havoc this flooding would have wreaked.
Yes, we have a problem about planning in our country because we know that these areas are flood plains. It's not, there's nowhere to hide it.
The last time something like this happened was 2012.
Yeah,
it has never been this bad.
It was on every map that you can see that these are flood plains. Yet our people will go there and build. Like I said earlier, you have to understand two things. Once the River Niger and Benue are purged, if I can use that word, is land that is nearest that they will flow to. Normally this will take about a week or two to form the ship back. But something is wrong with it because we are building on these floodplains. The water have nowhere to go. So they become stagnant because of so many obstacles that I'm sure they are not going. That's why lowlands, including Lagos, are usually very protected when it comes to alerts about things of this nature happening. And most states that I know will have plans to ensure that the water that flows in will flow out as quickly as possible. But Kogi has been flooded for about 6 weeks. Part of Anambra have been flooded for about 5 weeks. And yet we are still talking about it 6 months later. And I don't understand, because you assume that governors of states that are bordering that river will have plans in place in case of this emergency. We know some countries that do drills for something to happen. They will have done the drills. Okay, if this is to happen tomorrow, this will be our reaction, so they can cut off reaction time. Let's say it will take them 3 hours, they want to do it in 2 hours, and everybody is prepared. In case it floods tomorrow, what are you going to do? Are people to start praying to God or doing kokomi or whatever they do instead of planning? So
now, in Delta State, they are said to have even opened like 10 IDPs. That's because of people we have to, okay, this is a picture of the IDPs.
Yeah.
Because...
And then this is a picture of attempts to open the drainages. Dredge and open the drainages. You see, AY, my concern about this is 2022.
Yeah.
We are going to be alive in another 5-10 years, and this will happen in some states again. And you and I will remember, oh, we discussed this. I was reading up, and I realized that in Anambra, for example, around 2004, 2005, there was a devastating flood like this. You can imagine from 2004, 2005 till now. The question we should ask the successive administration is, what efforts were made to ensure that this, is taken care of?
Okay, let me quickly go for this commercial break.
The federal government, through the National Primary Healthcare Development Agency, announces the availability of COVID-19 and childhood vaccines nationwide. With the disturbing increase in reported cases of COVID-19 infections across Nigeria, protect yourself and loved ones from the harmful virus by getting vaccinated. Visit the nearest public or private health facility and mass vaccination sites today to receive the first, second, or booster doses of COVID-19 vaccines. COVID-19 vaccines are given to persons 18 years and above, including pregnant women and breastfeeding mothers, while childhood vaccines are given to children from birth to 5 years for protection against polio, hepatitis, yellow fever, measles, meningitis, and other vaccines-preventable diseases. All vaccines are free, safe, and effective. For inquiries, visit www.nphcda.gov.ng or call 0700-220-1122.
This message is from NPHCDA in partnership with the Center for Democracy and Development, CDD, with support from MacArthur Foundation.
Showing up in style inspires great confidence. IVM G5T appeals to class.
Time is of the essence. With IVM Kappa, business and meetings are always on the go.
Fun time with the family. Thank you to IVM Kingdom. IVM Kara is always stealing the show. Isn't she beautiful? Influence defines a great leader. IVM Seriki is Africa's commute king. Strong, reliable, and durable. With the concept of regionalization, Innocent Vehicle is committed to satisfying its customers with producing their everyday dream cars.
IVM, pride of African road.
Thank you for staying with us, and we are looking at the flood situation across the country, and a dam was opened in Cameroon, said to have affected these states and everything. So what are we doing to make sure that we forestall future occurrences?
Well, the only thing is to have we already have an arrangement with Cameroon. In fact, we have the River Niger Authority. I think 3 countries or 4 countries are part of this tripartite commission that ensures that. But Cameroon warned us. They told us that they are open to free the dam. So I assume that those who are closest to the waters were aware of this. But in the normal Nigerian mentality, we wait until it happens, then we start lamenting, and we start grandstanding. It seems to be what we do as a nation. We need more. The dams, of course, River Niger and Benue pass through many countries. They are not native to us. They just go what we can do to control the narrative that we face. The what we can do that we've not done is what I said. We ought to have a plan in place in case it happens. So do not catch us unawares, and then we start lamenting as we do.
Okay, look at these visuals I'm seeing now. How do you help this community?
Because it's obvious
there's going to be
they're
underwater.
Underwater.
Look at this. And AY, it is not enough for us to always run to open IDPs, do humanitarian stuff. It's as if we even see that as a business.
Yeah, it is.
The way I see it. Now, this water will go away eventually.
Ultimately, yeah.
What do we do to ensure that we don't have to spend money on taking care of these people again? It is simple. Is it drainages they need? Look at Lokoja, for example. That's a conference city. It is one of the lowest parts of our country.
Yeah.
The people live so close to the waterbed, to the seaside. Will it be difficult for us to say, okay, we want to relocate you?
Totally.
Then we turn this whole place to a receiver of such waters.
That's what nature intended.
It's a waterbed. That is what nature wanted it to be. Okay, leave this place. These monies we spend every five years.
People on canoes now. This is the normal roads, normal streets. You can see street lights and everything.
That is exactly. Look at houses. These are rooftops. The ones you can see are the upstairs. The bungalows are gone.
The foundation of some of those.
But do you know what will happen when this water leaves?
Everybody will move back.
Everybody will move back into their house. Government will turn a blind eye. It will be business as usual. It happened. It used to happen in some areas in Lagos. The government said no. You will leave this area, and alternatives were provided. For those who remain there, they know they are illegal occupants. And that's why you are not hearing so much from those axes again. Because you see, but when we take solace, when we enjoy giving them bread and bed sheets when it happens. That is why we don't do what we ought to do. It is not enough to sympathize with them. Let these people know that this will happen occasionally and you are at risk. So why don't we run away from it? Why don't we do what? If we have the humanitarian ministry, and the assignment is not to give bread and bed sheets, but to go to areas like this and provide lasting solutions, then I'll take that ministry serious. As long as that ministry is just to provide mosquito nets and IDP camps, I think we aren't doing the right thing.
Let me give you an example of what Lagos State did in my estate. We have problems of this. So there are certain areas that will be submerged year in, year out. So I now called Jobokwe and his people.
The drainage
they met with the landlords and we said, they've already built very big, something to convey the water out of the estate. But Nigerians decided on their own to create fences.
They're now blocked.
So what we do as landlords is simple. We go around the estate when it's raining. We identify areas that the water ought to pass.
Being
And
blocked.
we go with hammers.
We'll break the
bring
fence.
down the wall. We've been to police station more than 500 times. We don't care. Because we realize that once we do that, we are saving not only the properties, we are saving lives. Because if they submerged, the cost or whatever they sell, the houses will go down. And people run into trouble. People should take advantage of their neighborhood and form things to ensure that they are.
Okay. Let me quickly take this call. Taiwo is calling us from London. Thank you for staying with us, Taiwo. Oh, I think we lost Taiwo. So something would have to be done, and some states don't even have the capacity to actually respond to this.
That's why I would say the Ministry of Humanitarian should turn itself into a policy-making ministry that will identify areas affected by this and provide lasting solutions.
We have instead of the Ministry of Water Resources, that these people report to River Basin authorities. That's part of their job. They are supposed to tell us areas the water is going and what to do with it.
So if they are not doing it, that's why we created a ministry to buy the bedsheet and mosquito nets. It is good that when people are in trouble, we akin to their needs. But it is better for us to prevent them from getting into trouble.
Let governments know that national disasters will come. Prepare for it.
What's the name? Natural.
Prepare for it.
When you have a ministry to sit down and expect natural disaster and respond to it, I mean, it shows our kind of approach to issues. We can do better. fund such a ministry. There was flooding in this area last year. Go there. How do we prevent flooding next year?
Relocate. Yeah.
You people have to leave this place. Instead of providing IDP camp for them, provide alternative dwellings for them.
Move them off street.
As simple as that.
Thank you for your contribution.
It's a pleasure.
And Ganika Balogun, thank you for your contribution. And that's our offering today. Join us tomorrow for another episode of the program. You can watch the repeat broadcast tonight at 11 p.m. and join us every Sunday for Journalist Hangout on Sunday from 1:30 to 3:30 p.m. We're on YouTube, youtube.com/TVC News Nigeria. I'm Ayodele Ozubaku. See you tomorrow.
We love fried food, seasoned fried fish, French fries, but cooking fried food sometimes feels like going to war. Different cooking pans, hot oil spills, lots and lots of oil, meaning added calories, and cleaning is a disaster. Scraping, what a chore, but not anymore. Introducing the new ShopX Power Air Fryer with one-touch technology. The Power Air Fryer fries with superheated cyclonic air. With little to no oil and up to 80% less fat, it does the